So Dave, we've got a very, very good quality rod there, one of the Free Spirit CTX ones. We've actually matched it with quite a bit cheaper reel, the Daiwa Ninjas. Now these, I wouldn't say they're a budget reel, but in terms of match fishing tackle, they're one of the cheaper reels that people tend to go for. You can pick one up for under sort of 70 quid depending on where you go. I think they're seriously underpriced. What do you think?
Yeah, they look, the first impression you look at them, they look like an expensive reel. Very similar, you know, the sort of, they look very similar to a TDR, that sort of, you know, that sort of, I don't know what it is with Daiwas. They've got a very sort of sharp edge to them.
Yeah, they look great, don't they?
Yeah, lots of shininess to them, and yeah, it looks the part. You know, I think at first glance you'd think, oh, it's an expensive reel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you have to have expectations for reels. You know, if you pay £250 for a reel, then I think you're well within your right to expect it to last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, within reason, if you look after it or whatever in that. If you spend 50 or 60 quid on a reel, do you that, you know, for me, if I was using it heavily,
yeah,
all season, or you know, for a good, giving it some real good going over during the season, if I got 3 years out of that, I'd be more than happy.
Yeah, totally.
It's what does, I suppose the question is what does the drop in price bring in, reflecting a drop in quality? You know, what are we not seeing that we would see on a £200 reel or plus?
Well, what do you think that is, if anything?
I don't know. I'm not clever enough engineerily to tell you what's different about the gearing. The drag seems, I was just looking at it then, really. It's a very quiet drag, which I'm not sure I like. I quite like the sound of a drag these days. Yeah, I've gotten into drag sound.
You're not one of these people who annoys everybody around you by playing a fish and it going zzz.
No, I suppose I wouldn't want it that loud, but I like it to tick. I like it to sing at me, like, you know, to tick, 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 tick.
Yeah. You sure it's not just your ears going as you're getting older?
It probably could. But I think, I don't think I can judge the drag until I've played fish with it. But is that an area where maybe it's not, you know, the technology is not, or the engineering is not quite there? That's the trouble. I can't tell you what it is. What I will say is I notice on cheaper reels there's more sort of play in the handles and stuff like that. Now again, does that really affect the performance of it when you chucking a method feeder 20, 30 yards, or you know, a pellet, bomb and pellet, that sort of thing? I don't know, but I think for me, you know, in the sort of the match fishing that we do, where we go to venues and we're setting up a bomb rod, 2 method rods, 2 pellet wag rod, you could have 5 rods, you know what I mean? If you want to furnish those with the top of the range reel, you're over £1,000 in reels.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's not realistic for a lot of people, especially for some, you know, if you're only doing your summer, you know, you're going to be fishing pellet wagglers during the summer. So I think this sort of reel fits into that, where you want to sort of, you know, fill your holdall up and have your ready rods. I think it's perfect, because I don't think the drop in quality is going to hamper your chances of landing a fish.
I'd actually go a bit further. I think I probably like them even more than you. I think they are punching well above the weight in terms of quality. I mean, the line lay's really good. Playing fish on them, I've caught some fish on those reels. Really, really joyful, really. They just don't let you down. The drag works well. You know, it's a nice even line lay. You feel there's some power there. I think they are underpriced. I really do. Hey up, what's this? And you can hear your drag singing.
Yeah, set it too loose now, haven't I? I think it's another of those tiny little roach, Tom.
If your drag's been singing at a tiny little roach, I will not be impressed.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
How did your drag sing at that, Dave? That is embarrassing.
You know what I mean? You've got to. I always find feeder fishing brings the more quality fish, doesn't it? Yeah. But anyway, so I mean, the reel itself. I mean, that's and it's like you made the point. This, you know, we've got a very expensive rod. Does it look out of place on there?
I don't think so. I think it looks totally quality piece of kit. I love the graphite body. Obviously, got this bit of metal that makes it look quick. The anti-reverse is good. The drag works well. It's got a nice little tick to it. You get a spare spool. There's just nothing not to like, as far as I'm concerned.
And that's where I think we're at now. I think unless you're performance fishing, putting your gear under a lot of strain, so maybe a lot of long range casting and winding back from long range, which in that case you'd be using a bigger reel anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think there's maybe the necessity for that expensive reel. Yes, it's nice to have nice, expensive gear, but like I say, if you want to fill a ready rod bag up with 3 or 4 rods set up, which you leave in there and you don't have to keep taking the reel off.
Yeah.
Why would you? I don't think you need to go any higher than this, really.
Okay, I want to ask you a question then. Would you use that reel in a big match? Would you happily use that?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's good enough for me. I would too. I spent a lot of money on the last set of reels I have, and to be fair, they're the Guru ones, and they're absolutely beautiful reels. They work really, really nicely. Can I hand on heart say the performance is going to be better than that? Well, I've not seen any negative from this, what we've been using up to now, and as you say, that might come in a year, 2 years, 3 years time if that was hammered, and the Guru might last longer, but that is a lovely piece of kit.
Here's a question for you then, or a scenario for you. Is you hear it regularly. You'll hear after a match, "Oh, I've lost a big fish at the end. My elastic broke." Or my rig gave out, or I broke a section. You never hear anyone say, "My reel's packed up and cost me a fish today."
No.
I just can't remember ever hearing that. So I don't think the reel is perhaps it's not maybe an area that our attention needs to be too. We don't need to go too in depth on, really, do we?
I think as well, and again I could be talking out of turn here, but if you think a lot of our reels are based on sort of the traditional design that's used for lure fishing, where people are literally casting out, winding in all day, I think really what we do is quite often quite gentle, unless you're winding in 90 gram feeders on the Trent every weekend on the Tidal or something like that, when they are obviously getting some hammer. I think you're right. I think we do as match anglers probably use our reels relatively lightly.
I use like for my salmon fishing.
Yeah.
I use very expensive reels.
Yeah.
Because I know I want the drag performance, because the salmon will go off faster than any fish.
Yeah.
Hook. But there's not a carp in this lake that I couldn't keep up with on the backwind if I was using that.
No.
I think that's where we're at, really. It's about performance, what the performance that's required from your reel. And I think all we need is a reel that will nice line lay, casts nice and smooth, sits nice on the rod, and doesn't lock up or anything daft like that.
Absolutely.
And these aren't going to do that.
Absolutely not. So there you have it, folks, the Daiwa Ninja Reels. That's our thoughts. We're going to leave you with the thoughts of Vinny Lay of Wickersley Angling. He loves these reels too, sells a lot of them, and this is what he's got to say.
If people come in to me and ask me for a mid-range reel, I walk straight up, I grab them, the Daiwa Ninjas. I've worked here about 8 or 9 years now. Sold hundreds and hundreds of Daiwa Ninjas. I can't remember ever getting one back. I can't remember ever coming with a problem with them. All that happens is somebody comes in and says, "I've got one of them, can I have another one to match?" They're brilliant.